Dr. Kessler says that today's food industry is manipulating the American public to overeat in the same way that the tobacco industry manipulated it to smoke. And in his book, he reveals how the food industry and its scientists really operate. Welcome to the show, Dr. Kessler.
Thank you for having me.
Great. So for most of human history, we survived by eating plain old animals and vegetables. And now you say, and I quote, we eat mostly optimized and potent foods that bear little resemblance to what exists in nature. And our minds and bodies are being manipulated. So Dr. Kessler, can you please explain what you mean by optimized and potent foods and why you see this as causing obesity?
When I eat, I thought I was eating to fill me up. I thought I was eating for nutrition, for the joy of food and the satisfaction. The fact is that we now know, we have the science that show that fat and sugar, fat and salt, fat, sugar, and salt, when you put them together in those combinations, stimulate us. And they stimulate us to eat more and more. I can show you the brain scans of individuals and show how those substances activate, the key learning, memory, habit, and motivational circuits of the brain that keep getting us to come back more and more. What did we do in this country? We took fat, sugar, and salt. We put it on every corner. We made it available 24/7. We made it socially acceptable to eat any time. We made food into entertainment. What did we think was going to happen?
That's really scary. I flew to L.A. the other day, and the flight attendant handed out little bags of peanuts. So, of course, I read the label. And here's what it said: peanuts, honey, sucrose, maltodextrin, molasses, brown sugar, plus wheat starch, which I'm thinking is another form of sugar. So why did they need to use 5 or 6 different kinds of sugar? Whatever happened to plain old peanuts?
Why is the sugar there? Why is it, in the peanut? If you look at much of our diet, go almost anywhere. Look at any label. There's, sugar added, and not only sugar, but these other components, these other nutrients on the ingredient label. They're really the same thing as sugar. Some argue that the companies put it, in multiple different forms on the label so that they don't have to label sugar as the first ingredient, because if it was just sugar, you have to do it by quantity, and then the peanuts don't even come first. Just sugar comes first. But if you can do it and break it out into different types of sugar, then you list each sugar, and then the peanuts come first. But why is sugar even there?
Well, yes, why is sugar? That's the thing that just amazed me, and so much of it. Is it just to get us to eat more and to?
We did a scientific experiment. What do you think it is in the vanilla milkshake? There's sugar, there's fat, there's flavor. We published a paper called "Deconstructing the Vanilla Milkshake." Not your usual title of a scientific paper. What do you think it is? What do you think the main driver in the vanilla milkshake is? Sugar, fat, or flavor?
Oh, it's got to be the sugar, right?
It is the sugar. You're right.
Uh-huh.
Sugar drives the motivation. We keep on coming back for more. Now, when you add fat to it, it's synergistic.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no doubt that sugar is in there. The food industry will say, we're just giving consumers what we want. But we now know that by adding that sugar and fat, you're literally hijacking the brain circuits of millions of Americans.
What's so troubling is that children are changing their taste buds. Like my daughter now prefers the taste of Snickers, for example. She won't even look at, an organic dark piece of chocolate. She'd prefer a Snickers bar. And I know you say that it's really orchestrated it's highly orchestrated or something. What I forgot what you called it.
They're constructimized. They're optimized for that bliss point. You said that it's her taste buds that gets changed, right? And that's true. But it's not just what are those taste buds connected to. Right? Those taste buds are connected through the neural circuits to areas of her brain. So let me explain how this works. Right, based on you have your favorite candy. I remember I was talking to this person in publishing, and he said the hardest thing for him to do every night is to get home, get onto the train to go home and get past that newsstand because there's these packages of Kit Kats. Right? And he just had to run past that newsstand because for him it was Kit Kats. Now, for each of us, it may be something different, but you can be sure that at the core of it, it's, sugar and fat. And how does this work? So, for him, the power of food comes from what? Does it come from the taste? Sure, the memory, the taste. But it's not just the taste of the food where the power comes from. It's the anticipation of the taste. So just your daughter just sees the Snicker bar or just knows that the Snicker bar is around. And what does that do? That sets off, that's a cue. A cue can be a sight, it could be the smell, it could be the time of day, it could be the location. I'm walking down Powell Street in San Francisco and I start thinking about chocolate-covered pretzels. Why? Because I had been on Powell Street 6 months early and I'd been into a store. I'd forgotten that I even went into that store. But just being on that street was a cue. That cue activates the brain circuits. It causes arousal. It causes this focused attention, right? This narrowing of attention. Right? And there's this hyper-arousal. We then eat it. We have this momentary pleasure. It's gone in an instant. Every time we get cued again, we repeat the behavior. We strengthen what's going on is we're strengthening the neural circuits. So it's your daughter, it's not just the taste is changing. You're laying down, she's laying down the neural circuitry that will stay with her for a lifetime. So she will respond and she gets caught in this cycle of cue, activation, reward, release. It involves the learning, memory, motivational, and habit circuits of our brain. And once that learning and motivational circuits get laid down, it's very hard to change.
Now, I grew up with Snickers. I grew up in the 60s, and so, I had Halloween candy all the time, but my taste somehow changed. Maybe it's because I understand how toxic Snickers are to my health versus an organic piece of dark chocolate. But somehow I prefer the taste of the dark chocolate, and when I eat Snickers, I'm kind of repulsed by it. So how did that happen to me, and can it happen to her?
We've got to be careful. It's not any one food. Look at what's happened in our environment. You walk down the street, and you get bombarded. Right? What do you get bombarded with? When you and I were growing up, right, we ate during meals. Right? We would eat out occasionally. Today, I'm driving down Royal Highway in Virginia, and I just see Papa John's, Applebee's, Domino's, Chili's, Fridays, McDonald's. Just constant, right? All those are food cues. And what's the goal? The modern American food company, what's its goal? What's
to
its
make
objective?
us buy more food, right?
Right, because it has to grow, right? It has to increase its sales, and it increases sales and revenue by increased growth, right? That's what a modern corporation has to do. It has to sell more, whether we need it or not. So what is it doing? It's just, whether the marketplace is saturated or not, it has to sell more calories. Either that or it charges more for its food. And that's not going to go over well. So and what we've done is we've put food and food cues, on every corner, and we used to have certain boundaries. We used to eat during meals. Why don't the French get, up until recently, why didn't they get fat? Because, if you look, it's not because of the wine. It's not because that wasn't the reason. Sure, their portions are much smaller. That's one of the reasons. But they also ate during meals. They would never eat between meals. They would never walk down the street. Right? They would never serve food at business meetings. So what's happening, right? And you can pick any candy bar because it's very personal. It's based on your own past memory and experience. But this whole notion that you can eat any time, right? And you're constantly bombarded with these cues. Look at our kids, the vending machines. In the schools,
right? It's horrible.
The constant stimulation, right? Just the anticipation of the food.
We're going to take a short break.